Hey, buddy.
Hello, how are you doing?
Real good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, man, out here in beautiful Vegas, man. Just shooting. We're just took a quick break, man. Oh, man.
Oh,
Gl- Glad to see you, man.
I'm glad to see you. It's nice to finally talk to you.
Yeah. It's been a crazy, this journey. Films. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you wonderfully.
Wonderful. I tell you, I can't every day, obviously life has its challenges, but when you're able to wake up and create magic for a living, my God, what greater blessing is that,
Absolutely.
You
Well, I
know?
feel like I know you, sir, because I don't want to make either one of us sound old, but I've been following you since like the early '90s, maybe the late
Oh my
'80s,
God.
if possible.
Those were the golden years, buddy. The funny thing is I never knew how good I had it. It was one of those things that, you don't even now in retrospect, I've done so much in this lifetime. In retrospect, I wish I would have had a plan, a master plan, but God had his master plan for me. I just went along, and all of a sudden, I was in this really amazing journey, and before I knew it, 30 years goes by. It's like, my God, what are we doing? You know,
Right? Time
you know,
flies.
yeah, and the exciting thing to me right now, at this point, at this moment in time, is that I am relevant now, even more relevant than I was 30 years ago. I mean, this film I'm doing right now with Tyrese, Harvey Keitel, Mina Suvari, you know what I'm saying? And it's a drama, an action drama. It's like,
Hmm.
wow. It's a big budgeted film that's going to be released in theaters. How crazy is that, huh?
That is awesome.
you know, from where I started, from the barrio to just getting my butt kicked for $50, and here I am directing these amazing act. And Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo was here. We wrapped him up yesterday. That guy is a gem, man. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
How awesome is that? Yeah, it's like now you're probably starstruck working with Danny Trejo, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm starstruck working with all these guys. I'm the Reservoir Dogs. Fast and Furious. Come on.
Yeah.
I kid you not. Here's the thing. I mean, on the set, everything else. When I'm working, I'm very I know what I'm doing. God has given me enough vision to know what I'm doing and a passion. But literally, when I'm driving to the set, I'm thinking, "What the hell are you doing, Art? They're gonna find out you're a fraud, man. Get
Yeah.
him off the set."
So like I told you before, I just want to, for the fans that are going to be listening, I just want to,
Yeah,
pick your brain,
yeah,
first of all, talk about well, let's get started. First of all, I want to welcome to my podcast. It's called the ACTION-FLIX. I don't know if you saw me kicking around on social media.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes, absolutely, brother.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. And I see you following me, and I can't tell you how it warms my heart when like guys like you, like, or women in the industry, like follow me and tell me what a good job I'm doing.
No, man, you are. I'm serious, man. I mean, in the '90s we had the martial arts magazines, and now magazines are gone. It's people like you who are keeping the spirit alive of this stuff, and I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely. So let's go way back in the time machine, if we will. So let's talk about your journey to the martial arts. How did you get started, and how young were you when you first got introduced to the martial arts?
When I first started martial arts, I was 13,
Okay.
and it lasted all about 3 months. It was a Japanese karate, and I, again, being a fat kid, I mean, my favorite meal was grape soda and Twinkies.
Yeah.
I was in heaven, man. Those were the good days.
Right.
But I was just the last person you would expect that would do any kind of physical training or any kind of sport or anything. I didn't like it. I really wasn't into it. And so my karate instructor told my father after about 3 months. He said, "You know what? Because they were friends. He said, you know what? I think honestly, you're wasting your money. I don't think your son, Art, really cares for the stuff. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't. I couldn't. I was terrible, terrible. So that's where it went. And then when I was about 16, I got jumped by about five gangbangers. They
Oh,
beat the
okay.
living daylights out of me. I mean, really. I mean, I have 11 stitches here, stitches here. I mean, they really, really, really did a number on me. And and for about 3 weeks, I was afraid to leave the house. I was so messed up in the head, so Tom PTSD kind of shit. And
Right.
And then about the same time, you know, a little earlier than that, I discovered Bruce Lee. You know, and I say that in my book, the story about how I discovered Bruce Lee, because my first film with Bruce Lee that I saw Bruce Lee was Chinese Connection, and
Hmm.
it was one of those things. I really believe strongly in fate, right? And that's one of those things that I felt was fate, because my family had a restaurant at the time,
Okay.
and we were always, you know, as a kid, that's one of the reasons I was doing so bad in school, because I'd have to go in the morning, clean up, go after school. So I never had time for homework or anything. So I was really bad in school. And one night I'd heard of this, you know, these kung fu movies that were coming out, and I wanted to see this film. I didn't know Bruce Lee from Adam, but you know, we rushed. We cleaned up the restaurant and everything else. We're mopping, sweeping, washing dishes, rushed down there, and let's say, you know, the movie starts, I don't know the time, but I mean, let's say if it starts at 9, we got there like at 9:10. So
Hmm.
we go to the window counter, and and my father says, you know, I want to take my kids in there. You know, he's gonna, how many tickets? 3 tickets. It was me and my friend.
Hmm.
And the guy was a real dick. The guy
Oh,
was this Caucasian guy. He said, you know, too late. The movie starts at 9. It's 9:10. We have a policy of not letting people in. And then my father's begging him, saying, "My kids work really hard, and please, can you let them in?" And so the guy said, "Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we do that? I don't remember the wording, but I remember that he was going to charge my dad double for each of
oh,
us
oh
to
my
get in.
God.
And my father was going to pay it. So he starts taking out the cash. The manager walks in, who's another Caucasian man. He walks in there, and the reason I say this is because I saw the worst and the best of humanity that day. Because this guy was a real dick, didn't want to listen, was going to charge us double. I don't know if he was going to pocket it or what. I don't want to say, but
Right.
the manager comes in and he sees my father put all this money on there and, you know, slip it through the counter, and then he says, "Oh, what's going on?" And then the guy told him, "Well, you know what? They're late, and we're not supposed to let them in." And my father looks at him. He goes, "Please, sir, I don't care if we pay double." He goes, "What do you mean pay double?" And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, we'll pay double. I don't care. I just want my kids to see this." And he looked at my father, gave him the money back. He says, "Come in as my guests."
Oh,
So so we go in there, brother, and we're sitting there. There was maybe 3 people in the theater. You know, it's ridiculous.
right.
So I went like, I don't know, third, fourth row, dead center. You know, I'm trying to find the best viewing for the movie. And the minute Bruce Lee walked on screen, there was something magical that happened. It was so amazing to me, to be honest with you, brother. I've seen a lot, you know, I've seen not a lot, but I've seen, you know, a couple of action films and stuff like that as a kid. But when I
Hmm.
saw Bruce, what he did on that screen, I didn't even remember. I was trying to in my name, like Chen Chen, you know, Chen Chen, that drilling that hit into my name, this character.
Hmm.
I fell in love with Bruce Lee. I thought, my God, there's something magical there. And so that happened. Plus the beating. So it was kind of the perfect storm in my life around that time. And I started training. Then I went back to martial arts training in a serious way. But at that point, I didn't want to do martial arts for martial arts sakes. I want to do martial arts to beat the shit out of people. I really did. I thought, you know what? After those 3 weeks, there was so much rage and stuff like that, and all that building up. And I said, screw this fear. I'm gonna take those guys. I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna find them. I'm gonna take them out. And so I started training in earnest. And that was like in Taekwondo. Did a couple of tournaments. Wasn't really, you know, really that good. It was okay. But then around that time again, I discovered the Bruce Lee Museum. Well, Norman Boreen, when he had it way, it was just this makeshift museum, but it had the new Chucks from Enter the Dragon. It had the Game of Death suit with the Kareem Abdul portrait.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And I discovered it because I'd been following martial arts magazines, and Eric Lee was on all these covers, and he was doing
Right.
a seminar. That's how I discovered Eric Lee at the Bruce Lee Museum. I went to
Okay.
a seminar. I was hooked. I was hooked. So it progressively, that's what became my whole life. That literally, those events all mixed in, you know, combined, created the perfect storm for me to change from being this bullied kid. Because even as a kid, I was a victim of bullying. I mean, throughout school, I was getting bullied. As a kid, I was bullied. I mean, I'm telling you, it was disgusting.
Right.
I hate bullies. I hate bullies, and
Absolutely.
since then, yeah, since then I've taken care of a few myself. But it's a kind of thing where, I hate it. I hate it. But That's what happened, brother. That's what happened. I discovered Bruce Lee. And then I discovered Eric Lee. Then, while I was with Eric Lee, I trained, at the Kali Academy with Daniel Santo. Then, sporadically while I was doing the film with Jerry Poteet, you know, and Richard Bustillo, and then, eventually in these later years, Wing Chun with Samuel Kwok. So I'm a kid in a candy store.
You're dropping some names there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I can't even believe it. I can't even believe it.
Right.
A lot of people, are hooked on lineage and all that stuff. I'm not. I don't claim anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just do what I. A lot of people are. Oh, I'm this degree or that degree. I'm this lineage. I'm that lineage. All that to me is all bullshit. It's who you are as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Who you are as a man, as a woman, as a human being, and what can you do? I mean, for instance, this film I'm doing right now, I was hired to direct it, which was great. This is a multi-million-dollar film, but I also told them, I said, even though you have stunt coordinators, you have the whole team, I said, you know what? I got to do my choreography. But you're the director, but I'm still going to choreograph my fights. So that's what I've been doing, man. That's what I've been doing. I've been not only, so people are used to having, you have a director, he's directing all the drama. Then they send it to a stunt coordinator. He sends it to a fight choreographer. And here they got Camacho all in one, man. One-stop shop.
Absolutely.
And
That's
I
awesome.
just put together, yeah. But it's been an incredible journey, I'm telling you, man. In terms of martial arts, my biggest influences obviously are One Hop Kendo with C4 the Costco system, Kali, and JKD with Daniel Santo and Jerry Poteet, and then Wing Chun. And I had a chance. I didn't train much, but early on at the Kali Academy, they had Art Saxel come down.
Mm-hmm.
Art Saxel was Rocky Marciano's trainer way back in the day. And he was an older guy, but man, I learned so much about boxing from him, the short period of time I trained with him. But no, and then sporadically, what's been so wonderful for me is that I'm a sponge, man. I'm a sponge. So when I've been working with Gerald Okamura, I'm picking up some Sansu, obviously Don the Dragon Wilson. So I'm picking up, kickboxing techniques from him, from Benir Kiedis, some stuff from Cynthia Rothrock. I mean, my God, how lucky,
That's incredible. Okay, so now let's talk about how the hell do you get into film? Was it just by by happy accident, or was it something that you're like, hey, this is kind of like something I want to do?
No. See, that's the thing, man.
Okay.
That's why I'm a testament that to me there's a God, because I tell you, man, from this fat kid to the 3 months into his martial arts training, his instructor tells him you're hopeless, to all of a sudden being a premier fight choreographer.
Right.
But what happened is that as a kid, I always loved these action films. Kung Fu, all that. I mean, when I was growing up in the 80s kind of thing, they used to have swap meets or flea markets or whatever. So every weekend, I said, I save up my money. I go there to the swap meet because there was 2 stands that have Bruce Lee stuff. The newest Bruce Lee poster, the newest Bruce Lee picture, whatever I can get. But I always had an affinity. I think I did have an affinity for action films because as a kid, I was always, pow, ping, playing, imagining all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But another part of that, believe it or not, I remember, because it came from a broken home and all that, all that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it or not, I used to imagine myself on the covers of magazines. I used to imagine, even as a fat kid, while I was eating my Twinkies.
You're still imagining.
I'm telling you, man. Imagine myself on the covers of magazines or being interviewed like I am now. And out of the blue, I was training with Eric Lee, and I was auditioning. At that point, I thought I wanted to be an actor, so I was auditioning. I had a couple of small, forgettable roles in forgettable films, but one thing that happened is it was just hit and miss. Nothing was really clicking. Nothing was really connecting. And then one day my CFO calls me up. Eric Lee says, "Hey, Art, you want to get your ass kicked for $50?" Oh, I thought I had to pay $50. I'll do it. Shoot, to be in a movie? Come on.
Yeah,
that was it. I did it so well because just naturally I used to do that as a kid. So the only thing I had to learn was the nuances of camera. But my reactions, my technique was good for film. Again, I was very lucky and very blessed because again, that's all in my mind. I manifested that, not knowing what I was doing, and so I did that film with Eric Lee. I think the first one was Ring of Fire,
Ring of
and that was well fun experience. But the backstory behind that, and the backstory behind me getting more work, was that Ring of Fire, I was doing a scene with, I think, I forgot who the kickboxer was, but it was a renowned kickboxer, and he's doing a scene. I come from behind him and get kicked in the chest and go out. So we did like 3 takes. The first take, it was kind of right here, bam, but he's laying in the kick solid. I mean, he's not pulling it. So I came in running at him. I took that kick. I literally threw me like 3 or 4 feet back to cement. And at that time, I didn't know you had to have you could have elbow pads or knee pads. It was like cement on raw, elbows. So okay, great. Come back. Take number 2. I run in there. Now the kick is a little higher, my upper chest. So now, again, throws me 3, 4 feet back. I take it. It hurt less because I kind of timed it so I can almost be with my feet in the air by the time he kicks me. Take number 3. And I tell the story because it's very important, because take number 3, literally, he got me straight in the throat.
Oh, boy.
Straight on side kick. Right in the throat. Fortunately for me, I was literally, my feet were in the air by the time he kicked me, so it was a hard kick, but it was just a push, right? Camera catches it. They see me get kicked in the throat. They see me go flying back. I land on the ground, and when I'm on the ground, number 1, I thought, man, did I screw this up? Because maybe I came in wrong. Maybe I moved the wrong way, and the poor guy, I might have hurt his foot with my throat.
Right.
That's all stuff I'm thinking. I'm lying there. It seemed like an eternity. I didn't hear cut. And I said, oh, shit. Okay. Art Camacho, your first film, you get fired.
I'm not going to get my $50.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm not going to get my $50, man. So from the ground, true story, I opened my eyes and I see all these people standing around me. They thought I was dead, and I thought I was fired. They thought, my God, are you okay? Oh, yeah. And I got up and apologized to the guy who kicked me in the throat, And so they were like, this guy's nuts. Then I heard the producer and the director saying, you know what? I like that Mexican guy. Let's bring him back. He gets hit and he doesn't complain. And he works cheap. So there you go.
Awesome.
And that's how it started for them. That's how I started, getting film after film after film for a while. It started improving everything. It started, eventually got into the union and started doing bigger films. But seriously, it was that happenstance, like you said. Eric Lee needed somebody. He called me up, and I enjoyed it so much. And I did my job well. I didn't complain. I wasn't doing it for the money. I was doing it for the passion. That was the key. I did it for the passion. And I think when you have passion about something, in my life, I'm an old fart. In my life, because of passion, that moves me. And that's able to help me manifest a lot of the things that are happening to me. Because I generally like it. I have done a lot of jobs for money, but the majority of the success that I've had is because of my passion, and money is a little role in it.
So now the biggest thing, because you're talking about Ring of Fire and how that was your initial run, like this was the start of the direct to video boom, of the 90s, where, Blockbuster and everything, like every week it seemed like there was a new martial arts movie coming out. So talk about being involved in that era, when all that was happening.
It was an amazing era because I didn't realize what was happening at the time.
Right.
What was happening? There was a couple of companies, primarily PM Entertainment.
Correct.
And Concord, and PM Entertainment was Jose Murray and Rick Pepin, and those guys were doing. They started kind of in the late '80s doing kind of cheesy action films, and then Bloodsport comes around. Then that caught on, and they said, hey, let's get Corman was the one that started the thing by hiring kickboxers to star in these films. Matter of fact, Don tells me the story that Corman, he had his research people go out there and find the most decorated kickboxer. He was going to star him in a film, and they saw Don Wilson. They thought he was a white guy. So Don walks in, this tall Asian guy. It's like, what the fuck,
Well, I remember the movies, because they would have the name, and then underneath it would be PKC World Heavyweight Champ,
Yeah.
And I ate it all up. I couldn't get enough.
My God. Oh my God. But you know what? Then Don did with Corman, then he came to PM Entertainment. PM signed him for 3 films, and Corman for 3 films, and in between, they were finding anybody. In that time, at the film markets, because I went to a few of them where they sell these movies, as long as you had any kind of title, you put yourself on the cover on these things, and they were selling like hotcakes. You couldn't get enough of them. That's what helped me a lot at that period of time, because I came around during that era when it was barely starting to hit, like 1990, 91, and it was just like, wham, I was thrown into this thing. I'm just working. I'm just getting calls left and right,
Hmm.
Eric's choreographing. And then once I started working with Don, it was I think the first 1 or 2 films, like Ring of Fire and Out for Blood, a
Right.
couple of films, I was just getting my butt kicked. And Eric Lee was his choreographer. And what happened there was that he had Eric Lee had another engagement on another project, and then Don wanted another choreographer. He needed somebody to choreograph a film, and so that's when they asked me, and the rest is history with Don. I mean, 25 films. How many years later, we're still together. But yeah, you know what? It was just that era. It was one of those things where something clicks, and my God, they've tried it with MMA films, but MMA films never really caught on like the '90s kickboxing films.
No, absolutely not. Like, and I remember, like I said, Bloodsport came out, and I was hooked into it, and then mine was the perfect weapon with Jeff Speakman, because that's what got me
Yeah,
into the karate. That's what got me into the karate studio. Mr.
right.
Speakman was, and I continued on and taught karate and everything. But every Tuesday, I remember, because I was teaching at karate school, and I would always have a break in the afternoon. I'd always go to Blockbuster to check out to see what new movies, were on the shelf. And I can't make my children understand how wonderful of a, because now everything's on the TV. It's like, you don't understand. You had to actually go out and actually had to physically get it. And there was nothing worse than when you went there and it was out and you couldn't get it.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Believe it or not, at one time, I don't know if you remember, there was a TV guide. Remember TV Guide, the
Yes,
actual
of
physical
course.
magazine?
Yes.
I remember there was a period of time, a 2 year period of time. I kid you not. I used to I used to subscribe to it. So every week, except 2 weeks, there would be one of my films playing where I'm stunt coordinating, fight choreographer, or doing bit roles in. But I was involved in one film or one way or another every week for like almost 2 years straight. That was
Hmm.
always playing. And that's how crazy that era was. And part of it's luck, part of it's blessing, but part of it's really, really, knowing your stuff. And I was, blessed enough to know my stuff and always keep improving, because even now, I like to watch MMA films. I watch John Wick, all these films,
Hmm.
because I'm trying to stay relevant. The mistake that we make sometimes just in life is that we get a formula that works for us, and as times change, we don't grow with the times. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
and actually, that's one of Bruce Lee's or Zen or wherever you got it from. But you have to change with the change that's coming to stay relevant. You know, as a matter of fact, in like 2019, I'm jumping a little bit, but I went and made history by being the first Latino director to direct a Russian language period piece in Russia. And it wasn't even
Yes.
a
I
martial
saw
arts
that
film.
on your IMDb page. Yeah. I was very interested in that. Yeah.
Man, that was crazy the way that came about. But I'm always trying to stay relevant, and but the martial arts, I can't stress how much. I mean, I am alive because of martial arts. I am doing my dream. I'm living my dream because of martial arts. Bruce Lee is one of, to me, one of the greatest influences. And again, he again, because he was the man. I mean, you have Van Damme, you have Jean-Claude Van Damme, you have Seagal, you have all these guys out there,
Right.
but they're not the real deal like Bruce Lee was. At the end of
Right.
the day, they look great, and I not to take anything away from them, but Bruce Lee was the real deal, you know. And
Absolutely.
and again, the '90s, it's something that if you go back to films like maybe the '50s when they had all the musicals going on,
Hmm.
they're sporadic now, but there was an era right there during the '50s when they were just doing all these wonderful musicals.
Right. Right. I know well. My mom and sisters used to watch them all the time growing up,
Oh
so I
my
was kind of
God.
forced to watch them.
Yeah. My God, I enjoy them now. I swear to God, I didn't enjoy them growing up, and now I enjoy them. I watch them, And then I even watched some of the old westerns, and you know, well, even the Wild Wild West from the '60s. My God, when you see what Robert Conrad did in those days with no stunt double, how crazy is that? You know,
Yes.
the action in those, you know. But no, man, the '90s was the heyday, and I don't think there is any era that could come back like that.
No.
It's one of the
Nope.
things, you know.
Yeah, and everything's streaming now, which is again,
Yeah,
it is the times, and it's
yeah,
nice and everything, but there was never a time like then when like and my daughters look at me like, you had to go out and like actually rent stuff. I'm like, yes, yeah, we actually had to
right,
get in our cars, drive to a store, and
right,
and pick it up. Now
right.
here's one thing I wanted to talk to, because like I did my research, like when I was watching all these karate movies, like all these guys, and you're always that guy, like in the like a lot of the PM movies, like there you were, and that's how I got to. I'm like, because like I was like, there's Art Camacho, there's Art Camacho, and it was kind of like where's Waldo kind of thing. I'm like, there
Yeah,
he is, there he is,
right.
So, and I actually talked to Michael Worth a little
Oh
while ago.
yeah, Mike. Yes, yes.
Yes. And he talked about the PM. The PM entertainment was kind of like, and a lot of people, and I say the same thing, they kind of took the mantle from Canon Films, Canon Films in the 80s, with American
Yeah,
Ninja and all that. They
right,
kind of took that and ran with it, and that's how they got popular. And what made
right,
them more popular was, they had the VHS, to distribute
right.
all these.
Yes, yes. I mean, PM Entertainment came around at the kind of a middle to the tail end of VHS. The DVDs were hitting, and when that started drying up, that's when all that market started drying up. But you know what? But we as filmmakers and as martial artists at that time did ourselves a disservice and caused the demise sooner than later, because at that time demand was so high that if you throw a kick and you look halfway decent, they would make a film. No matter how,
Yeah.
there were so many bad films, so many
Oh,
bad films.
so many. Yes.
Yeah. That Ryan. Personally, I'm not a favorite fan. I like that Ryan guy from Kill or Be Killed, but some of those films are so bad,
I
so
know.
bad. Martial artists, the choreography, you know, it. My God, that to me is a disservice. It was a disservice to us as an industry and to martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's just like, even right now to this day, and I try to educate my martial arts brothers and sisters because they don't understand. They think, okay, well, I got a guy who can kick good. I got a guy who can, throw a spin kick and all this shit. It's like, I can get 20 stunt guys to do that.
Yeah.
So that doesn't impress me. It's
Right.
the charisma, it's the acting. The biggest advice I give to martial arts who want to be in films is work on acting.
Mm-hmm.
Work on acting. That's more important. Obviously, work on your body and your skills, but the most important skill is acting. Bruce Lee was an actor before he was a martial artist.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, people forget that. They think, oh, he's because he's a phenomenal martial artist, and no, work on acting, man. Just my God, that's the business we're in. It's an acting business for the martial artists.
Absolutely. Now, let me pick your brain here for a couple minutes.
Yeah,
As a fight coordinator, choreographer,
yeah,
however,
yeah.
like, how do you approach a movie when you're going to do like the fights for a movie? Now, is it different for like the budget that you have, the time of filming that you have? So give us what's in your mind when you're doing a fight choreography for a movie.
Okay, the first thing first. Your foundation is your script.
Mm-hmm.
You read the script. Then if I'm directing, I know the tone, but if not, I discuss the tone with the director and the producers. What kind of fights do you want? Do you want like Hong Kong style? You want, side? You want gritty? You want MMA? First off, those are the first basic questions you should be asking. Secondly, is what budget?
Yep.
So, for instance, the John Wicks have these tremendous budgets, tremendous
Right.
budgets.
Right.
They're like, outrageous. So, I mean, a part of it's because they have really talented people around them, but the other part is they have the time and the money to do
Mm-hmm.
these elaborate fights. If not, there's no way in heck that they can achieve that. So,
Exactly.
so budget. Give you an idea of the film I'm doing right now. Even though it's a bigger budget, it's still, we have certain limitations, and so we don't have. It's not a $60 million budget or $20 or $30 million budget.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to say, okay, within this time frame, how can we create some great fights? And also, for instance, in this situation, the tone is a little bit Seagalish, but more gritty. So those are the images that go in my mind. First, I have in my mind, I visualize who the star is, and I visualize the kind of movement that he's gonna have, what kind of, and a lot of times I teach the actors the movement, whether it's Aikido type movements or boxing, kickboxing movements or Kali movements. And then we just go to town. We go to locations. We plan it out. And for instance, I had an actor here who's plays a secondary role, who it wasn't scripted for him to have some action. Excuse me, but I needed action with him. So he's traveling through this underground, warehouse, and I'm walking through the warehouse myself, and I'm saying, okay, what feels real? What feels real? What would I do? What would I do? I'm running from these guys. There's two guys chasing my ass. I'm not going to stand up and square off. That's the mistake again. A lot of novices make, is that they square off. All of a sudden they do that Marvel thing. They hit the ground, they square off, bring up their fists, and that's not life. That's not real. If you're going for that tone, I'm going for more gritty. So my thing was, in this particular fight, was okay, he's sneaking around the corner, guy's rifle, guy spins around. First thing is he grabs that rifle. He's not going to let go of that rifle till it's done. Throws the guy down. He's trying to reach for the rifle. The guy cuts him off. So now we have to square off, but not like Kung Fu theater. It's like, I'm like backing up, seeing what the hell I can do. He grabs a pan, he hits the guy, and that kind of stuff. So I build a story. It's every fight to me is a 3-act play. It's not kick, punch, grab a pawn, do a jump kick. It's a 3-act play. What's the story I'm telling? What is the story I want to engage the audience into? So that's what I can tell you. I approach every fight as a director, as a storyteller, as opposed to just really cool movements. And thankfully it's worked 30 going on 30 years. Very lucky. But one thing that I wanted to touch on, I think I mentioned it, is that thanks to John Wick, thanks to that Blood Train, or I forgot the name of the film that Brad Pitt did, it became fashionable to come from the stunt world to direct mainstream movies.
Yes.
Because for a while there was a period of time in the mid 2000s where, because of my background, even though I made people money. Give you an idea, the first film I directed for PM Entertainment, called The Power Within. It was a film they gave me.
Ted Jan Roberts.
It's still one of my favorites. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That film, they gave me a budget, I think $700,000. I brought it in $50,000 under budget, and they grossed over $2 million at that time.
There you go.
So they made a hell of a profit. Yeah, they were. That's why they gave me 3 more to do. It wasn't because they loved my pretty blue eyes,
right?
But for a while there, it became a liability, because I'm telling you, I would have agents and managers tell me, Art, we're pitching it to the studio, pitching you for this film, or pitching you this actor doesn't want to work because Art's that action guy. Art's the action guy. That's what they saw me as, an action guy. So it was a liability for about 4 or 5 years in there. And so that's why I was doing a lot of coordinating. And then, I did my talk show. I did a lot of stuff. But then John Wick comes out. All of a sudden, it's like, Art's that action guy. We gotta have, now it became an asset. Right now, literally, I have 4 scripts in front of me because of that. When we're doing now with Harvey Keitel, Tyrese, and Mina, it's coming out really, really wonderful. We got 1 more week, but again, now it's an asset. So now is kind of another era, because it's been cyclical on my life. And again, if you know anything about the film business, unless you're one of the top 2%, you're not working 24/7. You're working very sporadically. So you're always doing extraneous jobs. But in my life, I've had cycles that last years where it's continual. Then there's a little lull, but then it goes up. It keeps going. Another thing, for speaking strictly of the business, is that there are movie clicks, there's stunt clicks, there's stunt coordinators who hire their own team, and so it's hard to break in. Even in the martial arts circles, people think, okay, well, you're Don Wilson, you're Cynthia Roth. Like, not really. I mean, they're good friends of mine, but I'm not in their clique.
Right.
I mean, literally, I'm not in any clique. That's what's made my life even more challenging in terms of getting work, because they got their friends and their cliques. They're people that they hire most of the time, and sporadically I might go in and do a film here and there, and that's the way it is. So I mean, when I talk to people now, I tell them, look, two options. You could try to lay your own path, which is the hardest thing you can do on the planet, or you could try to fit in with one of these cliques, and then that way it eases your entry into the industry more. But sadly, I've never been that way. You know, I've always been so hard-headed and just, you know, I fall on my butt, wipe the boogers off my face after I'm crying, get back up, you know, come on, hit me again.